Welcome to Sex, Lies, and Blank Pages with our special guest, Nicole Maehrer. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. Hi.
We're so excited.
I know. Excited.
We finally got pinned
Oh
you
my
down,
God,
girl.
I was so embarrassed. It was like a month ago, right, Stacey? You were like, "Hey, are you coming?" And I was like, "Oh my God."
Oh, it was another message you were supposed to send me, but then didn't, right?
Yeah. Yes, but literally, it's because in my head, you guys do these on Thursdays, and when we rescheduled, I was like, that date is Thursday. In my head, I was like, Thursday. I even told Michael, I was like, "Oh, I'm doing a podcast with Stacey on Thursday," and he was like, "Oh, fun." And then Tuesday, we were out to dinner with my parents, and I got your text, and I was like, "Oh my God." Should I do it in the parking lot? And they were like, "I'm sure she can reschedule."
Yeah.
I was so embarrassed though. It was one of those feelings where your face gets like really hot.
Don't be. You're in good
God,
company.
No. Yeah.
I feel like artists in general are very much like
so
that.
scatterbrained.
Yes.
I try.
So I'm so used
many,
to seeing you on TikTok, but it's wonderful to see you in person.
Yes.
Can you introduce yourself for our audience who like you're about to blow their mind? So
yes, my name is Nicole Maehrer. I'm the author of Assistant to the Villain, and I originated on TikTok with the Assistant to the Morally Gray Fantasy Villain web series, and then eventually wrote it into a book. And now I'm on a podcast.
Just hysterical.
I'm so bad at introducing people. Are like,
I know. That is like, to me, it's like the worst, like introvert.
I'm so
like
bad
hell
at it.
is like, please now tell us about yourselves. I'm like,
oh my God.
No, you did good. It was a good job.
Thank you.
So I remember watching you on TikTok and seeing you do that web series years ago. It was probably when I first came onto TikTok. What inspired it? Because it's freaking hysterical. If our audience hasn't heard you or seen you or followed you, they absolutely should. So let us know your handle and then what inspired you.
Oh, you're so sweet. It's at Hannah Nicole May, M-A-E, because my last name probably would not fit on the user handle.
and people go back.
Maehrer. I think I originated doing like way back when I first started making book talk videos. I loved book talk. It was such an escape for me. I'd come home from work and I'd just like scroll. I had so many favorite creators, people that I'm like friends with now, which is so insane. I'm like, oh my God, I manifested this friendship. It's insane. I'm like, oh, the power of my mind. It's crazy. But I just watched Bridgerton. I'm such a huge historical romance person. I love historical romances so much. They're such comfort reads for me. And I had read Bridgerton because I knew it was becoming a TV show. And I was in that phase where I was just reading book after book. So I had read Bridgerton. And then the show came out and it like blew up. And everybody was like, oh my God, what's going to happen next season? And I was like, I know. I have to spread the word. I have to tell everyone. And I had like one too many glasses of wine one night and it was the pandemic. And I was living alone. So nobody was there to say, don't do that. That might be, you
Thank the Lord.
Yeah. You might regret it. So I was like sitting on my couch and I was like, I'm just going to tell everybody what happens in the second book. And then that's probably what will happen in the second season. And yeah, that's pretty much how they did the second season. They're basing it off the book, so I wasn't completely incorrect. And then I started making like Bridgerton skits with the characters because like I just love comedy. It's so much fun for me. And then I just started thinking of like bookish funny skits. Originally, I was gonna do Assistant to the Fantasy Heroine, and I was gonna do like, oh, at 10 a.m., like let out a breath you didn't know you were holding. It's like stuff like that. But I love villains. I'm so obsessed with villains since I was like really little, to the point of my parents' concern. My mom was like, oh my God. Because like we'd watch Disney movies and instead of being like scared, I'd be like, oh my God, do you think they'd be friends with me? And she was like, what? I'm
like, he's hot.
Because normally that Snow White scene where the queen becomes that's a terrifying scene for children, like where she's becoming the old hag that comes to give her the apple. Like that's a scary scene objectively. And when I was a kid, my mom was like, you literally watched it like wow, like you were taking notes. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. So I think it was the series was just a fruition of like everything that I enjoy, which is villains and villainy. And I think like poking fun at things that are very serious because I love lightening things with humor. So that was really fun. It ended in at the beginning, I literally said in my head, this would be such a funny book. This would be so fun to write. And I was writing something else and I was like not into it. I like liked the idea, but I was like, oh, this is like doesn't feel fun. And then the one day I was like, let me just like sit down and see what the book would even look like. And I'd been making the videos for a few months at that point, so I was so obsessed with it. And then I was like, oh my God, this is so easy because I'm having a blast. And it just poured out of me.
Yeah.
And now it's a book. It's insane. I'm like, how did that
very
happen?
well-known book. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's not just a little book.
I'm like, I've tricked everyone. My imposter syndrome's like, I fooled them all somehow.
I know, and I keep looking
insane.
around my shoulder like, still haven't figured it out.
Oh my God, don't even talk. I read
all have
Stacey's
it.
books a few months ago. I'm literally looking at them
God.
right now.
I know.
Michael had to
The
deal with
message-
my I was like
the
a rabid
messages from
raccoon.
Hannah.
The fun text from Hannah
Yeah,
about
from
the
Hannah.
books.
Like a rabid raccoon. Because it's so outside the realm. I'm such a like usually like lighthearted reader. Like I will read a heavy book. The way people read palate cleansers is the way I read heavy books. Like heavy books are my palate cleansers. Because I have mental health stuff and it's just sometimes hard for me to like delve into something that's really heavy. But every now and again I crave it and then I'm like, oh, you know what? That sounds really good right now. I'm gonna read something like that.
Because we
And
met
then-
at Comic-Con and I think she thought I was like, oh, so writing this over here. I'm like, oh, sweetheart.
Yeah.
Well,
it was like,
I
you
am
have
not
to
well.
read it. You're gonna love it. And then she described it, and I was like, that sounds so sick. I want to read it so bad. And then I ordered like all of them, and then I literally read the whole series. I think it was like a 2-week period
Yeah.
where I just
You
read
started
it.
on the
sending her
plane on the
messages.
way home.
Yeah,
From the
it was
Comic-Con.
It was
Yeah.
I read so fast, but it was because Michael, I had just been out of deadline, so I was like, you know, when you get out of a deadline period and you're like, I need to read everything that's ever been written ever or I'll explode.
Literally.
Yeah, right. So
Correct me if I'm wrong though. Did you self-publish first and then it
No,
was
I
picked up?
didn't. I didn't. I had that option in my mind where I was like, because there's two like such great avenues either way. It's really just like what works and what's best. And originally I was like leaning towards traditional publishing and I queried, and I also had my agent who I love. He's the best. He ended up, because I had been talking about the book so much on my social medias, and I think someone had shown him one of my videos or something to that effect. And he loved the idea. And he reached out and he said, if you want to submit to me, I would love to read it. So I ended up submitting directly to him. And then I also queried other agents as well. But I ended up with my agent now because he's just so fantastic. And yeah, so that it like really worked out. It was definitely not the typical route. I think I was very fortunate that I had a platform and that I was able to like talk about, and I had people that were excited about the book, which was so awesome. And then we went on sub for a few months and then we ended up with my publisher now. So it wasn't self-published at first. That was definitely like a track in my mind though, that I was like, that was, for sure. Oh my God.
I just remember you talking about the book and then it was like on pre-order with the
It was just
publisher and
there,
everything.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Everything happened so fast. And we just rounded I know the anniversary because I'm such a loser. I know the anniversary of when I posted the first one because I'm like every year I celebrate it. And it's been 3 years, but like
That's
only
amazing.
3 years. Doesn't that feel like I was like, I thought for sure it was like 4 to 5. And then I did the math and I was like, I think it was 2021. So it's only been 3 years. Like that's.
But then that time's going to flip on you where all of a sudden I'm hitting my 11th year and I'm like, wait, I thought it was just 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, what happened?
I think it just stays like, I was like, wait a minute. No, I'm not that old. I haven't been here that long.
Yeah. I was like, time is moving like slow and fast at the same time. It's insane. It's bizarre, but it's cool. And
so I have a question, and I'm sure that you've been asked this in some way, shape, or form before, but coming from the fact that I kind of know you now, we're friends.
Colleen, we're basically related.
Yes, we are. We'll come back to that.
We're cousins, Colleen.
We'll come back to that because it's a funny story. How much of Evie is you? because
know,
I
I guess-
see a lot of you in Evie and a
I
lot of
think
her
that
and you.
This is so funny because I have this amazing group of friends, and we're like we're like linked at. It's like that episode of SpongeBob where he lifts his shirt to Squidward, and he's like, "We're like brothers, only closer." That's me with my friend group, and we were talking yesterday about like all the way we write, and we were trying to come up with like one word for the way we are, all of our writing styles. And one of my best friends, who was just visiting in Australia.
I saw you
Stacey
climb through the window.
Yes,
That was
Stacey
great.
McEwen, I love her so much.
It was hysterical.
Yeah, she's so it was so fun. But she like literally was like, your writing's just like Hannah. Like every time I read something, it's like you put so much of yourself into the things you write. So I think Evie has a lot of me, but I think they all have a lot of me, to be honest with you. Like all the characters have like pieces of me I think that really too could be said for any writer. I see, like, I'll read friends' books and I'm like, oh my gosh, I see that. I see you in here. Like or anyone. All my good friends. Yeah. Oh yeah, Stacey, for sure. Yeah.
But it's so funny because Hannah comes across, everybody thinks like, oh, she's so happy and cheerful. I'm like, dude, I've seen some dark shit come out of her too. Like the villain's in her too. That girl is not so sweet and innocent all the time.
Assistant to the Villain is so fun until you get to the very end, and then it's like, oh my god,
what the hell did you do?
What happened? There was originally in one of the drafts, there was like a scene that was like originally really gory and bloody, and my editor was literally like, "What happened? Like what?" Because it wasn't at all like that until like that point of the book, and it was so random and out of the blue, and I was like, "What did happen that day?"
Life.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
Something bad must have occurred that I was like, you know what? It's all gonna come out right here. Yeah, I feel like Evie has a lot of me for sure, but I think they really all do. And I always say Evie's like my better half. Like she's what I wish I was. She's all the best parts of me and all of my she also is all of my insecurities, but so do like all the characters. Like I could literally some days I'm the villain, like for real. Like some days I'm like, you know what? I don't want to feel anything. Feelings suck.
But your villains are still like sweet.
Yeah, I can't help
My
it.
villain.
I cry so much.
And Willow do villains like
every week I'm like, I'm entering my villain era, and then I just start crying and I'm like, never mind.
Not this week.
We can try again next week. I think because I always think in my mind, I'm like, I'm gonna be so tough and so like strong. And I've had this realization so many times where I'm like, I'm gonna be like so fierce and scary, and then I'm like, I can't do it because the thought of being mean to someone literally makes me nauseous. Like it that sounds so obnoxious. Like I'm so nice, but no, really, like it.
Will and I are like, we just got turned on.
There's a lot to say though about
nauseous.
the strength and like the fierceness that it does take to have humor in dark moments. It takes a lot, and it takes a very strong person to be able to do that.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, especially because the humor requires somebody else too a little bit. So it's almost like an act of service is like, I'm going to have humor in this situation. We're going to get through it. So that is very courageous. It's very much,
that's such a nice way to phrase it.
Humor is actually a lot harder. Comedians, I mean, to be a comedian, it's a lot harder than to do drama. To find people like, because you're going to be criticized much more for humor.
Oh, it's so subjective too. And that's why I like, if somebody is like, oh, I don't find this funny, I'm like, oh my God, that's totally cool. Because but it's true. Like there's so many comedians that like my brothers will think are hysterical. And I'm like, I don't see it. Like, I don't think that that's that funny, but I love that you think it's funny. And I love that you get joy and humor out of it. And I think that humor is one of those things that it's so subjective, where like one person will be like, this is the funniest thing I've ever seen. And then somebody else will be like, this isn't funny at all. And that's, I mean, it truly just shows you that everybody's brain is just a little bit different. And that's a good thing. I think that that's something we should be happy about, because it means that there's something out there for everyone. And that's a very positive thing.
And how boring the world would be if we were all exactly the same.
I used to say that to my students when I was a teacher. I was like, wouldn't it be—
You were a teacher? You do have teacher energy.
I thought they're like, of course you were. I taught social emotional learning though. So I taught a program called Second Step, and it was basically like teaching kids how to process their emotions,
Oh my God, could you come talk to my daughter? No.
Yes.
My daughter is
it's so
Evie.
important.
Her name
Oh,
is
you're
Evie.
kidding.
No,
Oh,
I'm
that's
not.
so
Yeah.
sweet.
She's a
I
little
love
mini
that.
me. And I'm just looking at her and being like, how
I
do I
love
just
that.
transfer what I learned and give it to her? Because she's so
Yeah.
going through all of those lessons.
Oh,
yeah.
I wish you could.
It's
Yeah.
so hard when you're little too. You think about kids, they're amazing because not only are they like, they have the most fun brains, they say the funniest things. Kids are the
do.
best. But they're also like, their brains are growing so quickly, and it's like so hard for them to keep up with their, I'm like, I would be, and I was. And I think about when I was a kid, I always say this too about like when you're a teenager, especially when you're a teenage girl, because there's no group that's criticized more than teenage girls for some reason. I don't know why. It's ridiculous, but it's so true that like teenage girls are just absolutely going through it. Your hormones are changing, like your body's changing. You're dealing now with like societal expectations. And I always say like, I wish, and everyone's like, oh my God, teenage girls. And that the commonality, right, is like, or the stereotype is that like teenage girls are annoying. And I'm like, no, they're not. They're literally just trying to figure it out. And I always think like, I wish that somebody would have looked at me like with gentleness and empathy when I was that age and trying to figure out like how to be a person.
And there's not a lot of gentleness in our culture, especially.
Especially to girls.
Especially to girls. It's so like I can't make sense of it. And now that I'm an adult and my brain's done cooking, I'm like, oh my God, what happened?
Oh, our brains are supposed to be done cooking.
At 25 apparently, but I think they're lying because somebody was like, that's just because
I must be behind.
Resources. I mean,
I'm an underachiever.
Yeah. I'm like,
we won't talk to Willow here, the overachiever. Us over here that are failing life.
Oh my God, yeah. It's hard. And I think even for like little kids, like I taught grade, like all the grades in the elementary school, and all the kids grasped it different. And some of the teachers were like, you know what, some of the kids are picking this up better than the grown-ups. And I was like, that doesn't shock.
No.
We had like a whole unit on empathy, like a whole unit about it. We learned like how to identify how someone's feeling by looking at their face, and like learning that we don't all react the same way to things, and sometimes we like different things. But that's what made me think of it. I used to say to them, like, if we all liked the same ice cream flavor, would it ever be available at the store? And they were like, oh my God, no, you're so right.
Ice cream, go take my ice cream. Yeah.
Right. I'm like, it's good that we all like different stuff, because it would be so boring if everybody liked the same things.
That was one of the number one things I always taught my kids, is that, you know, it's differences is really what makes the world special.
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody likes different stuff. And you can always find a common ground too. Even if you like different stuff, you can always find like a middle ground. Or you might learn to like something new. You might learn to try something new.
I love that perspective. And literally you are a teacher. But I think like the artist always comes out in the art. Like you can't separate the two. And hearing your perspective on this, and like just your, not just confidence with it, but the education in your statements, because there is education in what you're saying. Having that in a very popular, widespread, viral book, I think is really what like society needs right now.
Oh my God,
so much hope in
You're
that.
really hyping me up right now. Compliments make me so uncomfortable. I'm just like, oh my God, what do I do?
You deserve them, sweetheart. You do.
Yes, we love our Hannah.
Somebody gave me a really kind compliment once, and I just went, happy birthday. And they were like, what? I was like, I don't know. I saw it in a meme, and I just wanted to say it. They were like, okay.
I'm gonna start doing that now. Like, when I say, lady, happy birthday.
I'm so confused. Yeah, if you feel awkward, just say happy birthday. It really cuts the.
It makes them stare at you.
Everybody's
like confused.
Your mind, like, whose birthday?
Yeah.
I'm like, you. My brother's friend has like a running joke where he'll just randomly go, because it was Father's Day. And all his friends, for some reason, were at my aunt's house for our like celebration. And he walked up to me and he went, happy Father's Day, Hannah. And I was like, oh, okay.
Thanks.
And now he'll randomly say it now. Anytime I don't see him too often anymore, because unfortunately we all live like further, you know, when you become an adult, like suddenly everyone you see like so much as a kid, it lives far away. But it'll go like, happy Father's Day, Hannah. And I'm like, oh my God. How is this still happening? We're adults. What?
Yeah. Is that kind of humor just like sewn in through everything except for the bloody, gory, messy scenes?
Yes. Well, the bloody, gory scene like didn't make it into the final cut.
Yeah.
We literally were like, my editor was like, Hannah, and I went, you're so right. Let's like dim this down a little bit. And it ended up it was so distracting upon my second read because I was like this because the whole it's a scene in the book where the villain like defends Evie, and it's a very pivotal scene for them because she's so often been like the caretaker. She takes care of everyone. It was kind of the first time someone had stood up for her. So she like runs, and I'm like, it does take away from the scene if there's like so much like blood and gore just happening like right.
That does hit hard though, for like just talking about our knowledge about empathy and what women go through, that like the first time somebody stands up for the woman who never had anybody and you like went to fucking town.
I was like, just tear them apart. Like, yeah, but the humor comes from my family. I have a really huge family. Colleen and I are related.
They need to get a DNA.
We do.
Really
so do you want to tell the story? Or do you want me to tell it?
So we were, or you could tell it if you want. I bet you know it better than me.
Somebody tell it.
You're the guest. I can fill in.
So we were talking, and Colleen had mentioned that she was from the area that my family is from, and I'm Syrian. I'm Arab, so we have like a quite large family. I told my boyfriend before he met my family just to prep. Watch My Big Fat Greek Wedding. It's basically the same gist. Like everybody's very loud and in your business and trying to force feed you food. And then I mentioned I think like Colleen mentioned that she was also Syrian. And I was like,
and my maiden name was Hannah.
Yes.
My maiden name was Hannah.
My grandmother, my Situ's maiden name is also Hannah, which is why my name is Hannah. And I was like, wait a minute.
Oh my God. You guys literally, you might be.
And my dad is adopted.
I know,
real.
My dad is adopted. So we don't know anything about that side of the family. But
we're
he kept
definitely related.
He kept his real last name.
It's not 23andMe, right? It's like Ancestry.com or something.
I think Ancestry.
One of them.
23andMe is where you do the DNA test and you can actually see like relatives on it. So we should do 23andMe.
We should.
You should do it. And then we're going to update our audience.
You have to. Yeah.
That would be so cool.
It'll be so funny.
And we live near each other now.
Yes.
Within like a half hour.
The area that I'm from specifically is the second highest Syrian population in the US. I don't know why. Everybody left Syria and was like, let's go right here.
Right here. Yeah.
It's there. It's a good
let's
place.
go right here.
Probably not a lot with that last name though, too. You know, it just happened that and it's spelled the same way and everything.
It's so funny because I did an event a few months ago by one of the nice women I work with who helps schedule my events. Ellie, she messaged me and she was like, hey, I'm also representing another Syrian author whose last name is Hannah. And she's from your area, and she also comes from a big family. Do you want to do an event with her? And I was like, yeah, we're probably related. We're
all related.
Yeah.
And yeah, literally everybody's related to everybody. It's insane. Like,
isn't that funny? We could honestly be.
We probably are. The Zwaytini is where my family's from in Syria. It's our village, and that's like where the Hannahs from that side of the family are from. There was some like miscalculations because my mom's last name is not actually her her maiden name is Makul, but it was because my great grandfather immigrated from Syria. And then when he was like, coming in, they were like, what's your name? And he said his name was Michael. So he went Makul, and they went, and they wrote Makul down as his last, and there are Syrian Makuls. So I think that's where the confusion was. But our last name is like Shte or something like that on that side of the family. And anytime I say it to somebody like in our area, they're like, "Oh, you're from that." Like, oh my God, why? What?
Is that the villain family?
No, it's like I think we were like the zany family in that village.
Oh, the crazy.
And I was like, oh,
that makes sense too.
Yeah.
I could definitely belong to all of that.
I'm shocked. Yeah, you're from the Hannahs. I think the Hannahs are a little more like calm of a group. I think. That
I don't
side
believe
of the family, I think, is more wild. Oh no! If my family is any indication, absolutely not true. Like at all. I have like a family of like almost all boys. Like I'm the only girl on my mom's side of the family, unfortunately. That's why anytime like someone gets a girlfriend, I'm like, please don't leave. I know that
that's definitely gonna make them want to stay when they hear that. They're like, yeah, that sounds good.
Oh my God, my cousin got married a few years ago to his like long-term girlfriend, Allie. We're very, very close. We literally met for the first time, and he was like my twin because we were 2 weeks apart, and my mom and my aunt lived across the street from each other. So it felt like I had 7 brothers because she had 4 boys and I had 3 brothers. And one of her boys was my twin because we were so close in age that we like slept in the same crib all the time. I literally walked up to him and I went, if you mess this up, I'm keeping her and I'm getting rid of you. I don't like you that much.
We have enough boys. We're good to get rid of one or two.
I have plenty to spare. I don't need you. I need her. Fortunately, he married her and it worked out so nicely for everybody. So yeah.
Do you see your brothers in your stories at all?
Yeah. Well, okay. In book 2, there's like a whole like theme with like family, and there's a lot of sibling stuff. So you definitely get pieces of them. And I feel like I put pieces of my family in everything. Their humor is completely in there. Like that's how we talk to each other.
When does book 2 come out?
Yeah, I know. Speaking
August
of book
6th.
2.
So soon.
I know.
Well,
I'm so excited.
Will the podcast already, if the podcast won't be out by then, or will it?
Maybe.
It will.
Yeah.
It will be.
It will.
Yes.
Yeah.
So live now. So yes.
We're in the future. I feel like I'm a time traveler because when I came back from Australia, I jumped backwards.
Yeah.
And when I got there, I didn't have the 12th of June. I just didn't have that date.
Yeah.
Because I left on the 11th and I flew through the 12th, and when I landed, it was a day sooner there, so I landed on the 13th, and I was like, I just lost the 12th completely.
Oh my gosh. Any bad days, if I ever have a day I don't want to remember, I'm literally going to get on like a plane like that. I don't want to celebrate.
You don't even have to have it.
I'm just going to skip over the day. Literally.
This day is
stay with my
done.
Covers over my head and just leave.
I'm like, this day is done. And I left the morning of the 24th, and I landed or at least I landed back, like I landed in Vancouver, but I was fairly close to the US at that point in the morning of the 24th. And I was like, but I left on the 24th. My brain was having, I'm still so jet lagged. I cannot, I'm like, what day is it? What year is it? What time?
You're pulling yourself together
I'm
perfectly.
Like, sweetie, you say that anyway.
Thank you. I'm so good at faking it.
Yeah. I was like, you're saying that anyways.
Fun, though, so I'm like, I don't even notice if I'm tired. And I spent a day by the pool today, which was so lovely and needed.
So what's my excuse if I don't have jet lag? I'm always like, what day is it?
Yeah. Oh, I usually am like that too. I'm usually like that too. I think the jet lag has just been like extra gnarly because normally I'm such an early riser. I get up at like 7 a.m. like every day. Even when I don't want to. I don't know why. It's not by choice. Yeah. It's not by choice. It's
my daughter gets up early. Evie is an early riser and it kills me. And my husband is not an early riser, so neither of us are. But he's my hero.
Usually there's one or the other.
Yeah, usually.
Not with us. We're both lazy in the morning.
And Willa throws him under the bus. You're good, Sean.
I literally do. He's my
You should. Why not?
He's the primary caregiver. When he quit his job and started helping with the business, he took over being primary caregiver.
That's so supportive and awesome. I love that.
Plus you can just throw out, it came out of me, dude. You can
it's your turn. You're so right. You literally grew a human being.
Like 3 of them. I grew 3 of those.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So you should retire.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
I did 3 too.
Like be carried around on like a cushioned mat and be fanned.
He pampers me. He definitely does.
Oh, that's lovely. I love that.
Yeah.
He's
wonderful. My real life hero. He's not doing so well. He's real tired.
Oh no.
Poor Sean. When he gets all of us together, he is like herding cats. Poor guy.
He is.
It's like, come on, guys. We're like, what?
Yeah. I just posted a day in the life of, and we're on the plane, and he fell asleep holding his book that he wanted to read.
That was so funny. That was so cute. He was like,
I was like, I have to record this. I know. I was like, he's so like run down that like there's a moment of quiet.
That's so sweet though. I love that.
Yeah.
I love the support. It's always good to have like the mornings can be rough. Not normally though. Even if I go to bed late, my body's like in the morning, like, get up now.
My
And I'm like,
mind
oh
is
my
like,
God,
get
let
up.
me sleep in, please. The day I landed, because I landed in Vancouver and then I flew all the way back to the East Coast. And when I landed, it was like 4:30 in the evening. And I got in the car with my mom and she was like, did you sleep on the plane? And I went, no. And she went, so you've been up for 20 hours? And I was like, uh-huh.
Like crazy eyes.
Are you okay? And I went, there was free wine on the plane. So I drank a lot of it. And she was like, oh no.
Was there French fries?
No, there was like really gross plane food. I was smart and I brought snacks with me on the long flight. But I was so depressed because it was such a great trip. And anytime I leave any of my friends, I feel like I'm dying inside. So I was like, this is gonna suck. The way there was so easy. It was a 15, like first stint was like 6-hour flight, landed, had a break. And then I got on like the really big one, which is like 14 to 15 hours. And it wasn't even hard because I was so excited. I was like, oh my God, this is so exciting. I don't even care. I slept for like a decent amount of it too. Like I slept for like 5 hours, which I thought was amazing on the second half. And then by the time I woke up, we were about to land and it was morning there. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so good. And on the way home, I was like, I'll be fine because I'll have time to catch up and it'll be so easy. And then all week I was like, people were like, hey, you're back, answer my email. And I'm like, I'm trying, I'm so sorry. Like, what? I slept till 2 p.m. the next day. I haven't done that since high school. I was like, what happened?
Such a crazy wild girl.
I know. I was not a morning person until senior year of high school. I was so determined to become a morning person. I was like, I'm meant to be a morning person. I feel it. I have such a busy
You are
brain.
that chipper, annoying morning person. You are. Go, girl.
Someone's got to be. Someone, so it's you.
A picture of Michael, who's my partner. He like one morning, I made him go to the gym with me like really early because we had something to do later that day. And I need to move in the morning or I go bonkers. Like I need to move my body because it's like, I always say it's like letting steam out of a steam cooker. It's like letting my anxiety out. Like I just need to out. And I went, we have to go early then, like 8 o'clock in the morning. And he was like, on a Saturday? And he's like, is the gym even open at 8 a.m. on a Saturday? And I was like, it opens at like 5 a.m. Like, yes. And I have a picture of him, like, and I'm like, and he's in the back, like,
yeah, I'd be with
like,
him.
So done with me. He's like, no. But this week he's been so annoying because he's like, oh, look who slept in. I'm like, get away from me.
Poking at you.
Get away from me. Because I'm like, the literal one morning, he just started like being like chipper and started talking. And I'm so jet lagged still. And I'm like, oh my God, shut up. Like, stop. What are you saying? And
he's like, how's it feel now, bitch?
Yeah, he's been waiting. He's too sweet to like think of him. Like, I know that's what you're thinking. He's like a cinnamon roll. He's very golden retriever boyfriend. But I'm like, in your head, you're so gloaty right now. Because he'll gloat and then I'll go, what? And he's like, nothing. I didn't say anything. It's because he's a water sign.
That's so sweet.
He's a double water sign. He's a Cancer and a Pisces. Like,
is there a lot of him in your books?
You know what? When Michael and I met, I was writing Assistant to the Villain. So not in the first one. There's probably pieces of him in the second one. Not intentionally though. I think Michael is like, people are like, oh, is he like the villain? And I'm like, no, he's not. He's so
no.
I think maybe in the way that he's like just like any person that is just not great at like emotions sometimes. But he actually is so good at emotions. Like he's so good at being sweet, and he's so unapologetically goofy and silly, and he's like kind of like the total opposite of the villain, actually. Sometimes I'm like, I think I'm the villain of and you're Evie.
Maybe
like sometimes it's reversed. No, I feel like he's because he'll be like, who am I? And I'm like, I feel like he's like Blade's like the dragon trainer who's super he's such a jock, but he's so himbo, like so sweet and just like here for a good time. And that's very Michael. I'm like, you're just like, he's such a good guy. Like he's so nice. He's literally, I've never heard him yell ever. unless he's watching sports.
Have you seen him get the hiccups?
No.
So that was the first time that I saw my now husband get upset and yell, was because he got the hiccups. God. He gets so upset and annoyed when he gets the hiccups. And I was like, what's wrong?
That's the test. That's the ultimate test on my next date. I'm going to be like,
get the hiccups. You need to watch him get the hiccups and see how he reacts. Yeah. So that's one day I'm going to write our story. It's like forbidden romance where she's the graduate student, I'm the undergrad.
Oh my God. Is that how you met? Is that actually how you met? Oh my God. That is a book. Oh
one day I'm going to write it.
That's so funny. I love that.
But yeah, it's the hiccups. Like he's a
maybe that'll do it for him. So that'll do it.
Yeah.
Because
even you want to do the high
he's just so level-headed.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Oh, so sorry.
Right.
Is it all right?
No.
So we only have a few minutes left. But if you have time and you would like to, and you can pass,
sure. Yes.
if you would like to.
Don't pass.
Don't
pass. That'd be so nice.
Yeah. What I like to ask everybody is, what is your high and what is your low of the industry?
I want a dirty low. Go low.
Okay.
You can pass if you want to. People have passed and they've just said that they just would rather not. But yeah, will not hold it against you.
I could do the high. I feel like the low is very general. So I can just say like can I say something general for the
of
low?
Course.
You can say whatever you want.
I'll start with the low because I want to end on the high.
I love that's so your personality.
Yes.
I feel like I'm gonna be so annoying and be like, oh my God, but the low is not even that low because it's been so beautiful.
You're gonna make me want to punch you. You
can. Please do.
Oh no. Come on, Hannah.
Stacy, when we were at Planet Comic-Con in Kansas City, I literally turned to her because this was like our first bonding experience, and I went, I think I have a really punchable face. And she went, what? I was like, I feel like someone would look at me and be like, she has a really punchable face.
No, that's honey when we get to know you.
No.
I just give off the vibe like hit me. But also I have brothers. I am scrappier than I look.
It's because you're brothers. Yeah.
I'm very I'm so not like protective of myself, which is not a good thing. I'm working on it. But I'm very protective of my loved ones. Yeah. So protective. And I'm like, that's when I like Hulk out when someone else is being, that's when I'm like, oh. But I think honestly, the low is, I think it's like something everyone goes through. It's just I went from like writing it and it was just me, and just my eyes on it. Like nobody else was seeing it except anyone, like any friends that I sent like little excerpts to, or like sharing stuff. I would share like little quotes and stuff on TikTok and social media and stuff. And everybody was always really nice and supportive. And I received so much of that when the book came out too. I think it was the transition, I think, from going from like it just being me looking at it to like a whole bunch of people looking at it, which like I felt very lucky that anyone was like looking at it, because I was like, I can't believe people are actually reading it. That's crazy. Because I love it so much that I'm like, oh my God, there's other people that like it. That's wild. But right. So it's like, but there's other people that like, maybe don't love it. And that's totally cool. Everything is not for everyone. And I totally understand that. I think I was just like, I was just the transition period of it from being just me to being other people was just like, rocky, and not like rocky in like a super bad way. Like I really don't have a lot to complain about. I've been very lucky, but yeah, I think that was the lowest low, was really just like learning to deal with like exposure. And also
it's your baby, and then you see people
put your heart out there.
You see people beat the crap out of your baby.
But it's honestly like, and at this point I'm so annoyingly positive about everything that I'm just like, like love it. Thank you for reading it anyway, even if you didn't like it. Like it's so nice that you picked it up at all. But yeah, there was and I think in the fall when the book came out, I was going through like a personal issues and personal transition periods, and it was so much change at once. So I think that's what made it actually difficult, was the stuff going on in my personal life. Made like that part, there was so many good moments throughout. There was just like periods where I have a lot of mental health stuff. I have clinical depression and generalized anxiety disorder and a slew of other things that I have to deal with, but I try to stay positive about those things, and it's to annoyance, but I have to, because if I don't, then it will sit and simmer, and it gets to a point where I don't feel like myself, and I don't like feeling like that. So yeah, I think like the hardest part was just learning to juggle mental health stuff with social media stuff, with just like and this new career path that I was on. Yeah, I think that was the lowest low, was just trying to deal with everything at once, and then all the stuff in my personal life.
And that is a lot. I know that you're minimizing it a little bit and saying it's general and all that, but it's a lot to handle. And even though you hulk out for other people, you're worthy of hulking out for yourself too.
Oh,
just gonna
so
say
nice.
that. Yeah,
I will cry.
Yeah.
That's so sweet. Yeah.
Happy birthday. No.
Happy birthday, everyone. Happy birthday.
I'm glad you said it, and so I did
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how about your high?
My high, I mean, like, this has been, and it's so like, I sound so obnoxious every time I say it. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna gag at myself. But it's true that, like, and this has been such a blow away for my family too, because I have such a huge family. I always say that, but every member of my family I know so well. Like, there's so many members of our family, but I know everybody so well. And so it's just such a huge support system and love. And they've watched me go through like really low lows. Like, my lowest lows were never during this period of my life. They were well before it, when I was learning how to grapple with mental health issues. So my mom, and specifically, and my dad too, like they watched me go through some really difficult things that I was convinced that I would never like get past it. I was like, I'm never going to get over this point in my life. Like, this is just going to be how it is. And I did. Like, I got through it, and I was so shocked. I was like, oh my God, I made it out on the other side. It's amazing. And even more so that, like, this was something I had talked about doing since I was really little. Like, there's footage of me on the fireplace, like the hearth of our fireplace at like 2, reciting Goldilocks and the Three Bears for my parents, because I love to tell stories. And
Yeah.
I was always a storyteller. My mom was like, you were constantly making stuff up and just like spouting out the randomest things. And my parents both were like big storytellers at bedtime. They'd let me contribute. And when I was old enough to start doing like short stories in school, I think it was 3rd grade, I really got into it, and I was like, I want to write books. That's what I want to do. I want to make stories. And my mom was like, that tracks. You've been doing this since you could talk. Like,
Yeah.
she's like, you started talking very young, and then you never shut up. Yeah. So I think the high was honestly watching my family's reaction to the book launching, and them reading it and seeing it like in bookstores and sending me pictures of them like with the book. Like, my highest high is always going to be something involving my family. Yeah,
That's
I can
so
I get teary
beautiful.
every time
That's
I talk about
sweet.
it, but my mom like cried at the opening, because she's like, oh my God, like, it's hitting me, because she was really with me through like really all of the really really like, she was the one that was up with me till 2 in the morning, like making sure everything was okay. And she was like she literally went, and I was like, that's so cheesy of you to say that. Like, why would you do that? And she's like, I don't know, I had to. And the day the book launched, we were at like our local Barnes and Noble, which I've been to so many times. Like, my parents used to take me to that Barnes and Noble and buy books. That was insane. And she was like, you've arrived. Like,
Yeah.
she said
No,
that,
your
and
book's sitting in there. Yeah.
yeah. And we both started crying, and I was like, why would you say that? I was already on edge. And we went to Target, and we saw it in Target. It was like all insane. Very special. That was so long-winded. I'm so sorry. It was, yeah, but it was very, very just absolutely high was seeing my family's reactions. Watching my parents race to see who would finish it first was hysterical.
That's really
Like,
sweet.
your dad had a day off. Like, I didn't have the time. Like,
So he's ahead of me. Yeah.
Yes.
So
My little
sweet.
brother literally is not a reader. He just cannot like sit and it's so fair. Like, I know some people cannot sit and process the words like that, but he can listen by
Audio
or read by listening through audiobooks. So he listened to the audiobook at all the way to work and all the way home. So I'd get little updates from him every day, and he'd be like,
Aw.
I suspect it's that potion lady. And I was like, who are you talking about? And then he guessed the right answer. And I have it on video. And I went, that's insane. It would never be that person. And then when he finished, he literally texted me and he was like, you gaslit me. I told you that was this person. And then because I ended it on a cliffhanger, he literally said, I finished your book with a huge smiley face. You ended it on a cliffhanger. And then he said, fuck you.
We get a lot on cliffhangers.
I was like, I literally was like, Ben.
But now the second book is coming out. Hopefully by the time this airs, it will be out and we will all be reading it.
We're in the future.
And are following everybody in the audience. Make sure you like, follow, and subscribe. And where else can they find you? Are you on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook?
I am. I'm on YouTube. I don't use it too often. I'm at Hannah Nicole May on everything. So on TikTok, on Instagram, on Threads, on YouTube. I did make a Facebook, but only because several people made fake Facebooks. And I was like, God, I got to compete with these people. They're doing a way better job than me. I got like really fed up with one of them. Like most of them, like, because they're all scams, right? Like, so they'll like message people, which is so frustrating because I'm like, I don't want anyone to get scammed by a fake me. And I Googled it because I was like, this has to be illegal that they're doing. Like, this has to be against the law. And it is. And I got so fed up the one day because one of them was like actively posting. So I messaged him and I went, this is so rude and this is illegal. Stop.
Oh, you got them.
They took it down.
Did they really? That's amazing.
That's shocking.
Well, that's what you need to do then.
There are so many of these freaking people. Yeah. You're rude and this is illegal. That's okay. I'm going to start using it. Stop it
and
now.
Then tell him happy birthday after.
Yeah.
And happy birthday.
Stop. I like waved a finger like, stop this right now. The other ones are really funny. So I kind of want to just like let them ride. Like,
let them go.
I'll let them. I almost did a video where I was like, I'm going to rate my fake Facebook pages.
You should do it.
I would watch that.
So funny. All
of
them stole my profile picture and I'm like, all right, that's so boring. But one of them put like such a random, and the profile picture was literally a meme that said, I don't usually date, but when I do, it's the wrong person. And I was like, oh my God, that's
funny.
Why did they steal
mine? I know? I was like, it's my ex. It's my ex running this page. But it was so funny that I was like, honestly, slay.
Slay. Great ending to that.
Slay. Yeah, slay. Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Hannah. Love you, Hannah.